So, good afternoon, dear investors. First of all, I would like to thank FX3 for the opportunity to talk once again with an interesting audience. And I want to remind you that at the last webinar, we considered risk control with the use of synthetic instruments. You can find the archive of this webinar on the website of FX3 or on our website. The analysis was conducted using the method of portfolio spread trading, so-called PCI GeWorko. Today, we also want to illustrate the application of this method for the trend analysis in the Russian banking sector. We will show that one is strongly influenced by recent economic sanctions and isolation caused by political conflicts. I mean, occupation of Crimea, southwest of Ukraine. We're going to analyze the dynamics of lending volumes, consumer deposits, actual disposable income, and inflation in Russia in the last 2 years. Specific features of the central bank monetary policy will be reviewed as well. All of these factors will be used to demonstrate the stagnation of the banking sector and the certainty of Russian population regarding bank deposits. We certainly pursue pragmatic purposes as well, apart from analytical ones, and taking into account the fundamental situation today, we shall form an investment portfolio of CFD positions of Sberbank, VTBR 24, and the Russian Ruble traded against USD. So currency and stock portfolio optimization will be conducted based on Markowitz model. And in conclusion, we will introduce portfolio quotes formed using PCI GeWorko method in the trading terminal net traders. We shall consider comfortable positions for long-term investment in the CFD portfolio. We shall use technical analysis tools as well. So in order to determine, I try to go to the next slide. Just wait. Okay. In order to determine the banking sector trends, we need to know two basic factors. First one is disposable financial reserves of corporate and personal loans. The second one is the level of public confidence in the banking sector and conditions for business development and investment. Let us examine each of these sections separately. One of the main factors of financial sustainability is the real disposable personal income population. This indicator, which is given here, this indicator expresses the ratio of the nominal size of disposable personal income, this one, and a consumer price index CPI for the relevant period. Let us remember that disposable personal income is just a cash income available for the spending after the compulsory contributions have been paid. I mean taxes and so on. The chart of the second slide given here represents real disposable personal income in a quarterly expression since 2008. This chart is based on the data from Russian Federal Statistics Service, so this is official data, and this indicator reflects the change in the quarter compared with the one of the previous year. As you can see, the global crisis of 2008 resulted in income stagnation, and even the fluctuations within the equilibrium value of 103% continue for a long time. But however, the trend line had negative slope, and there is a high probability of coming of the triangle and entering the zone of lower revenues. And that has happened in the last quarter of 2013 here, and the first quarter of 2014. Okay, let us consider another interesting charts. which show the decline in the real disposable income separately. The charts of the third slide shows the average income and the CPI. And naturally, the gradual impact of the crisis of 2008 caused Russian economy deceleration and drop in income. Oil and gas demand rate has slowed down against the backdrop of recession in the world economy. And we remind that in 2008-2014, oil and gas revenues in the budget of Russian Federation rose from 41% to 48%. So besides, there are additional reasons of the income decline. I mean, huge capital outflow and decrease of direct investment. Naturally, we can assume that inflation reduction and deceleration in economic growth goes on, and but in the last quarter of 2013, the prices stabilized here, and now they still remain within the corridor. But at the same time, the income per person continues to fall. Another important factor is the Russian currency. Russian ruble. Here it is. Ruble depreciation had a significant influence on the decrease in foreign investment and mix of outflow capital. That means the fact that the import ratio of retail products grew up to more than 40%. And we can see that a new stage of this process, Russian ruble weakening, began in February 2014 here. Taking into account new social programs, President's promises, the CB has not impacted the depreciation seriously. And I suppose that this policy won't change in the future. Accordingly, we see that the suspension in consumer prices resulted in the drop of purchasing power against the backdrop of fall in incomes. And reduction in funds of private sector is also observed. So those companies focused on the internal market stood in the breach. Since the major export-oriented turnover is generated by oil and gas sector, it led to a deceleration in economic growth as well. And as it can be seen on this chart, export turnover was drifting within the range of 77% to 100%. But nevertheless, in the first quarter, of 2014, there was a breach on decline in the corridor, and it continues from the fourth quarter of 2030. So income reduction, of course, resulted in the fact that companies have to look for external funds to invest in new projects, and also business lending risks began to grow. The slide number 6 shows the lending volume curve for legal entities and individual entrepreneurs, and here the chart is represented on the monthly basis. Although the growing trend has remained stable since 2009, we observe a slight deceleration tendency. There is no doubt that the commercial banks will start to raise lending rates to offset the rising macroeconomic risks. But we'll go back to this issue later, okay? And now we pay your attention to the consumer sector again. So here, this slide shows the dynamic pattern in consumer lending volumes on a monthly basis as well. Review period is 2008-2014. After reaching the maximum in January 2013, we fixed the recession and trendline break at the beginning of 2014. Individuals manifest lack of confidence in the face of political uncertainty and the weakening Russian currency. Because of the fall in personal incomes, opportunities for credit repayment also reduced, and as well as the confidence in the banking sector. According to the results of opinion polls conducted by Edelman Trust Barometer Agency, we see that the confidence ratio dropped from 24% to 40% from 2008 to 2012. And in 2014, according to official statements of central bank, it became clear that the course of banking sector cleaning will continue to carry on. For example, this year, about 30-40 banks will have their licenses revoked. And this data is publicly and only strengthen the negative trend of confidence in banking system. Okay, now that's regarding consumer credit. We have more optimistic situation in the bank and deposit sector. For example, deposit volumes have been steadily growing since 2008, and the deceleration starts at the beginning of 2011 after the state government elections. So the political uncertainty related to the beginning of protest movement is not the less factor. And the easing of the ruble since February 2013 is another factor. Currently, a substantial uncertainty remains against the backdrop of the Ukraine-related sanctions and the situation. But what could be the next steps of the Central Bank of Russia within the context of increased risks condition? If there are no additional funds for large loans insurance, so there is only one possible step to do the tightening of banking policy. I want to underline that this will continue as long as the government takes systematic measures to prevent recession. Currently, such measures are not observed. For example, we can consider the interest rate on the credit. Just a second. Next. Okay, we can see that maximum interest rate corresponds to the end of 2008 and beginning 2009 at the time of the global financial crisis. The credit rate comes down, and since then we have observed a graded improvement of conditions for business lending up to October 2011 here. From now, monetary easing comes to an end, and initially this is explained by the stabilization of foreign market situation and then by the growth of macroeconomic risks. Okay, here we consider what the situation in the private sector with example of interest rates on personal credits. We consider the period of 2011-2014, and we can see that weak downward trend is insufficient to build confidence in banks, as we can see on the slide 7 example here. The private lending growth rate is falling. People are not ready to take on additional risks in the current situation, as you see. As for deposits, the situation is even worse. There is a downward trend observed. Banking structures offset inflation and ruble weakening risks. They damp the already weak conditions for private investment and fund saving. And this process is inevitable due to lower interest rates and loans, as long as the government and CB of Russia think about allocation of reserve funds for deposit insurance. Well, let us sum the fundamental information on the banking sector in Russia, and we should give some basic conclusions. First, the global crisis of 2008 resulted in personal income stagnation with a high probability of trend continuation. With the new social programs, president's promises and the need to provide them, the Central Bank of Russia didn't seriously protect the ruble weakening and probably will not do so in the near future. At the same time, purchasing power loss hit the companies focused on domestic market. As for export-oriented turnover, the external demand still doesn't sufficiently encourage the sector growth. At the same time, the confidence in the banking system is reduced amid the course of banking sector cleaning. These factors affect the decrease in deposit volumes, and although it is possible to talk in terms, of course, of the course for long-term ruble weakening, and that occurs because of geopolitical risks and economic sanctions, of course. Thus, there are all preconditions for reducing the banking sector capitalization in the stock market, and we can use them to invest in CFD portfolio. Let us recall that CFD is the contract for difference, and this contract enables this instrument enables to make a profit at the bearish direction of the market sentiment. Now we should talk a little bit about PCI, because the portfolio was based on the PCI GeWorko technology. This technology is integrated in trading platform NetTradix, both IFC markets product developments. GeWorko method, in fact, allows creating composite instruments that are some kind of synthetic instruments. PCI is defined as the expression of the base investment portfolio here, and in the units of the quoted portfolio. The first selection of the slide, you can see. When loading the history of the instrument quotations, price fixing occurs so that the initial price is equal to unity here. And normalization condition is represented by the third relation. It imposes a restriction on the volume ratio of basic and quoted components. But the remaining weights of both portfolios are chosen arbitrarily, and both components are represented in the US dollars. So accordingly, if there is a single asset in the quoted component, here, US dollar, then PCI is just a common investment portfolio, and spreads, swaps are summed up on the basis of these portfolio weights. It takes about 5 minutes to create a PCI, and if we have time, I will show it. Then the instrument history is loaded into the terminal. You have opportunity to conduct technical analysis, attach indicators, and trade this instrument as a common stock or some currency. This slide shows the example of a complex PCI with an attached RSI indicator below here. So we have defined the movement direction of the banking sector, and now let us move on to portfolio calculation. We consider a simple three-fund portfolio: Russian Sberbank, VTB24, another bank, and Russian Ruble. The last asset is an important factor that affects bank deposit volumes and credit availability. That was already shown in the fundamental part of my presentation. In case of homogeneous portfolio weights, the funds volumes invested would have been the same. But this is an initial approach which suggests that investors of each asset react with the same sensitivity to market conditions. I would like to do the portfolio optimization based on the markets model, and this model assumes a normal distribution of portfolio yields and incoming assets. We introduce the yield at each step as a relative change, in prices. Then the average portfolio yield or the expected value, the return is expressed within the second, expressed with the second of the given relations. Here it is. And the variance of yields with the third relation here. Yes, and the variance is introduced as an estimate of the income volatility and respectively some estimation of the investor's risk. Of course, the weight sum makes a unit or 100%, the first relation. This is trivial condition. That's just if we express the portion of capital invested as a percentage. For the evaluation of portfolio performance, it is suggested to use the return risk ratio expectations, so-called Sharpe ratio here, and rational investor usually aims to maximize this ratio, while aggressive and emotional investor tends to maximize only the yield. Okay. Come on. It is possible to make a two-dimensional surface of Sharpe ratio, but the third one is automatically calculated from the first formula. But we simplify the situation, and as a third asset, Russian rubles, we take a homogeneous portfolio weight of 30%. Then the Sharpe ratio can be expressed in just one single variable. This dependence is known as an efficient portfolio curve. It is represented on the slide. You can see maximum, it corresponds to 28% on the first asset and 48% on the second asset. As we can see, we didn't get a significant difference from the homogeneous portfolio, but the portfolio characteristics have been slightly improved, of course. All these operations, you should know that all these operations are performed only by means of Excel program, and that's why it is available for you, for everyone. Okay, the prepared portfolio history is represented in the slide 16 for weekly candles. We can see a bearish trend channel here. And the three price points, 1, 2, 3, confirm the main trend line. Now, for confident investors, it is a perfect position for opening a trade near the resistance line here. And the recommendation for conservative traders is to open the position when the price crosses the nearest fractal resistance, support. And the stop loss can be placed up above the previous maximum. For now here. Okay. Partially, the profit can be fixed at the level of 0.8222. For the most cautious ones, it would be best to sell the CFD portfolio at this level when the Bollinger channel is broken and the parabolic turns over. In any case, it is very important to wait for the RSI oscillator anticipated signal. We should wait for downward intersection of this support line. Okay, I suppose that we may finish, and I suppose we have a bit of time, and if you have some questions, please go ahead. If not, I will try to show the process of portfolio formation in Netradics platform. Here we are. This Netradics interface. You can see it here, and now I will change. Now I will change the language. Okay. Here. Okay. Now I just try to create a PCI GeWorko. I click to the context menu of Market Watch, create PCI. Now I will choose stocks of Russian derivatives, Sberbank here, VTB 24, and I need Russian ruble from Forex Group, exotic here. So okay, now I should try to choose the weights. Okay, 28 for first asset, 44 and 30%. Okay. Okay, that's my portfolio. And in the quoted part, we have USD dollar, and of course 100% of relative deposit. Okay, that's all. I can save my PCI instrument and just add to the used instruments in the market watch. Here we are. That's it. Now I choose chart, for example, weekly candles. Okay. And I can close this window. So that's the chart. You can work with it as it has been shown before. I can hide the grid to put some indicator, for example, fractals, for example, parabolic SAR. Okay, here we are. So, and we can trade if we want to open position. It's very simple as well. Just make a deal and choose the volume and go ahead. So I suppose that's all with the presentation and with the demonstration. At the end, I would like to, At the end, I would like to show supplementary materials that can be used for to get some more information about GeWorko method and about PCI. The supplementary resources. And if you have some problems, please feel free to contact me. That's my contacts. So I will try to help you. So I suppose that's all. I know that we have time. If some questions, I'm ready to answer. Okay, then I suppose we can finish our presentation. Thank you to everybody. Yes, thank you very much to FX3, to Adina. Take care and goodbye. Good luck.